We've been discussing it all morning. An independent panel has been appointed to review our current electoral law. There's a raft of proposed changes, including the age at which we can vote. To discuss this further, we're joined by the co-founder of the Make It 16 campaign, Sanat Singh, and political commentator Liam Hare. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for being with us. Sanat, if I can start with you, please. Why are you campaigning to bring down the voting age?
I think as a campaign, we broadly have a lot of reasons, but I think for me personally, throughout the course of maybe the last 3 years, we've seen inequalities and systems break down for us throughout the course of this pandemic. And for me, disproportionately, young people are going to be dealing with the consequences of that in the future. So I think now, if we can empower young people to be able to take the lead on these issues, to be able to advocate for the things that are affecting them disproportionately, then I think we can see stronger democratic decision-making in this country.
Liam, do you agree that the last few years where there have been some big decisions made about the future and rebuilding from COVID has made it more important that young people have a say?
Well, I think it's it's raised the stakes for young people, certainly. Like, young people have to live with the ramifications of what we decide for much longer than we do. What I would reject is the idea that giving children, or some children, the right to vote is the response to that. I mean, I can tell you as a father, and any parent will tell you that we act as trustees when we vote. We think about our children more than anything else when we're casting our vote. So it's certainly the case that I think that what's happened in the last couple of years does have ramifications for young people. Doesn't mean that we have to give children the vote.
Sanat, how do you feel about, I know you're 18 now, but you've been involved in this for a few years. How do you feel about being called a child?
Okay, I think legally we are called young people, right? We're not children. And I think the idea that children shouldn't be able to vote because their parents are acting in their best interest is also a bit of a misnomer, because this idea that children should just be children is a nice sentiment, but it's not what actually exists in the real world. What exists in the real world is 16 and 17-year-olds who have to work because their families are on low incomes and are being taxed fully. What exists in the real world is 16-year-olds having friends and peers who are coming up against a mental health system that isn't helping them. So clearly, children are not being children. There are issues that are affecting them in today's world right now, and they want to have a voice. They want to have a say on how those systems will affect them in the future.
And Liam, in terms of those systems, there are now curriculum programs around civics education that is now available to students at school. Arguably, 16 and 17-year-olds know more about that process and the voting process than a lot of adults do.
Well, thankfully, we don't actually have knowledge requirements or tests to make you eligible to vote based on how knowledgeable you are. I mean, it's never been part of the requirement to vote. I mean, we have put it this way, a really good way to think about it is this. If you were to lower the voting age to 16, right, then you are making 16-year-olds eligible for jury duty, because the juries are selected from the electoral roll, or people are called up for it. Now, if anybody, I would put it to you that the idea that 16-year-olds should be sitting through 2-week murder trials is something that seems a bit fanciful or ridiculous to most people. But if you asked why, you would say, first of all, look, they shouldn't be out of school who haven't finished their state-provided education yet. And second of all, we wouldn't expect children, even older children, and we have an age of majority of 20 in this country, de facto age of majority of 18, probably don't have the life experience to make those decisions well. And so if you're reducing the age to 16, you've got to realise that you've got these knock-on effects.
Sanat, Liam makes a good point. You don't want a 16-year-old sitting through a trial where, the most gruesome details of a murder or a crime is going to be talked about, and they're still in school. They can't get the time off.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to jury duty and the voting age, those are two inherently different things, and they're controlled by different things, different laws, right? So the idea that lowering the voting age is now automatically...
So you're chosen from that list of people.
The idea that lowering the voting age is now immediately going to qualify 16-year-olds to go into jury duty is a different thing. There's a way we can implement this that doesn't require that, and I think countries across the world have been doing that as well. In Scotland, we see the voting age at 16, but 16-year-olds aren't eligible for jury duty because the way we can choose that, or the way we can implement that as a public policy, is different to what is currently status
But don't
quo.
you think there needs to be some consistency here? So if you're saying, look, I'm 16, I want to be treated as an adult, then you've got to be expected to be treated as an adult in the eyes of the law, in terms of justice, in terms of being treated as an adult in court.
Yeah, so I think what's also really important to remember when we're applying justice or we're applying a law to 16-year-olds is that there are different knock-on or long-term effects to voting, right? When it comes to voting, what we're empowering people to do, or what we're empowering young people to do, is to be able to make decisions about their future. When we're convicting a 16-year-old the same as we would an 18-year-old, suddenly we're putting them in an environment where they're going to be involved in criminality for a longer time, right? If we want to implement this justly, if we want to have stronger decision-making in our democracy, and we also want to see fairer outcomes when it comes to justice in this country, then the way we implement this policy is not just a blanket. Since 16-year-olds should vote, they should also be in a jury.
We could debate this much longer, I'm sure, but we have to leave it there. Co-director of the Make It 16 campaign, Sanat Singh, and political commentator Liam Hare. Appreciate both of you being with us this morning. It's 14 minutes past 7.
Good debate, Mel. Good debate. I'm wondering, how old are you, Sanat?
I'm 18, yeah.
Oh, OK. So, right. So you can already vote. Do you think that 16-year-old, who would they vote for?
Well, I think
the
16-year-olds should vote for whoever they want to vote for, really. Yeah.
But probably the Greens, eh?
16-year-olds can vote for whoever they want to vote for. Yeah.
Now we know why they're pushing for it, right?